First of all, Commissioners, thank you for your time this morning. I appreciate it. I come before you today as a concerned citizen who is unhappy with the transparency within the Mesa County Government, specifically within the Sheriff's Department. First, let me state that I have the highest respect for the efforts of the Sheriff's Department. The fact that they continue to provide good services to this county in the trying times of budget cuts and layoffs is an indication of the dedication of the employees of the department. However, the events of this spring and this summer have brought to light what can only be called a crisis of leadership within the department. First, we have the investigation of Senator Steve King, a contract employee of the department. The investigation into Senator King revealed that for the past 2 years, he has routinely altered his time card reports to the department. In spite of the assurances of a complete investigation, we now know that that investigation of the senator was reined into a very small window of time, 2013. Senator King was a long-time part-time employee of the department. There's every reason to believe that he has altered time cards before the past 2 years. The people of Mesa County deserve to know the full amount the senator may have overcharged the county. Also, we are being asked to believe that no one in the office had knowledge of the transgressions of the senator. Court requests for certain documents in this matter have been routinely delayed or quashed. Second, we have the evidence of a Fourth Amendment lawsuit filed against current Mesa County Sheriff Sergeant and Sheriff's candidate Matt Lewis and his team. This lawsuit was filed in 2010 and settled out in court in 2013. Several serious questions now face the department over this case. The officers involved, though they were not named in the suit, the officers involved were defended by an attorney who was routinely hired by the county. The county has denied any involvement in the suit through court records. Yet Sergeant Lewis was recently quoted in the media saying that the county paid the settlement for this suit. Someone is not being truthful with the public in this matter. Excuse me. Gotta love Monday mornings with allergies. This is disturbing because the people certainly have the right to know if hundreds of thousands of dollars were spent defending these officers and settling this suit, particularly in this time of tight budgets. The people also have the right to know if one of the officers who want to run the department has a particular disregard for the rights, our rights, under the Constitution. Finally, the investigation of the Lewis trial revealed that there may be officers from that suit and others who might be so compromised as to be incapable of performing their normal duties as a sheriff's deputy. That several officers inside the force may have been subject to similar lawsuits and Brady letters. We, the people of Mesa County, continue to pay the salaries and the benefits for those officers. Again, the people are prevented from finding out the truth, this time by state statute, denying us access to the records on Brady letters and delayed court requests. These are troubling events, making the certainty of an unsullied election in question. The people deserve the right not to have to sit through another incident similar to what happened this summer with Steve King. The release of his firing was delayed long enough to affect a local election. These problems call for a swift resolution. I'm calling for the Board of Commissioners to appoint an independent outside investigator to delve into these problems. It seems almost impossible to ensure that this investigation will be wrapped up in time for the ballots to go out, given the reticence of the department to answer the questions to the public so far, but that should be the goal. I'm uncomfortable to ask for an investigation at this time because of the expensive commitment of funds and particularly the budget woes, but the people have a right to know, and almost all of these questions have a pertinent and real effect on the upcoming election. I remind you and those in the Sheriff's Department that you work for us, the people, and that we have a right to know if our hard-earned tax dollars are being squandered on altered time cards, unqualified employees, and lawsuits. I thank you for your time, and I urge immediate action on this. Thank you.
Do you have any comment?
You know, just share with you, Kevin, one of the great eye-openers for me when I joined this board nearly 8 years ago are the great number of lawsuits and court actions that are leveled at the county and many different departments for all sorts of reasons, from soup to nuts. And certainly a lot of those are directed at the sheriff's office. But it keeps many of our professional attorneys in the county attorney's office occupied on almost a full-time basis. But like I say, it's been a real eye-opener.
Well, I just had some information that was not available to me last night when I was finishing this off, and that is, there's a particular member of the sheriff's office who not only is in the Fourth Amendment lawsuit and was the leader of that team, but has a previous incident where he used excessive force without requirement, and it was recommended that he be fired from the sheriff's office. And he is still on the force for paying his salary. And at Friday's debate at the Rotary Club, Sergeant Lewis introduced him as his good friend and colleague. That's a little disturbing to me, that our sheriff would choose that person to be with him in a public forum and introduce him as a friend and colleague when he has such a tarnished record. And that's a frightening thing to me, that we can't get an official release of records. This person should not be on the force. He has at least 2 lawsuits, he has at least 1 Brady letter, and maybe 2, and that means he cannot do any effective police work whatsoever. Yet he's the person standing beside Matt Lewis at a public forum. That should worry you folks, because it worries me. The incident in the Fourth Amendment lawsuit that Matt Lewis was involved in scares me, because it could be mine over the next time, or it could be yours. You just never know. And with all of the things that are happening across the country, all the things coming to light with law enforcement in New York, in Ferguson, Missouri, my adopted hometown of St. Louis, and the problems it's caused, we cannot and must not have a lack of transparency in our sheriff's department, and that's what I'm seeing.
So Kevin, I just want to be clear about something. So the sheriff is not a department of the commissioners. We oversee certain departments.
Right.
So the sheriff is an office, which means it's an elected,
I understand that the sheriff's office, the elected office is.
Okay.
Who oversees the department? Someone, if we're committing $22 million of our dollars to that office, to that branch of government, someone has to be capable of overseeing that, allowing the public information that really they need to know.
Well, I think
I understand that the sheriff is separate and paid by the state. But you have a person coming out of that office that wants to be the next leader of that office, that is deeply involved in some of these incidents. And that should scare you.
And so putting that aside, I just am trying to understand what the role of the commissioners are as to what you're looking for us to do.
Are you saying you have no oversight in that $22 million at all?
No, that's not what I'm just looking for clarity as to what it is you're looking for us to do.
My clarity is we need an independent investigation of that department. And the only people that we can turn to, I think, for that is the commissioners. I don't think there's anyone else in the county. Especially, again, considering the reticence of the sheriff's department to be forthcoming with information on what's going on, that we cannot turn to them and have them independently investigate themselves. That much is obvious, because this gentleman is still on the force despite an independent investigation that told them to fire him. So that's my concern, is we're not getting the service out of the department. We have to turn to someone who has oversight, and that's got to be you people.
Okay. I just want to make sure you understand that we don't direct who gets hired or fired, though.
I understand.
Okay.
What I'm saying is that independent investigator needs to go in there and look. I mean, Steve King worked for that office as a part-time employee for 8 years. You're going to tell me that there's not anything else there, and you're going to tell me that the people involved with Senator King had no idea that he was doing this? When there's got to be a review of his time cards every week when he turns them in. You know, that there was no report filed by Sergeant Lewis in the Fourth Amendment suit, so we have no record of what his actions might have been. And then when he went to testify, and I'm hoping you've all seen at least parts of this lawsuit, his answers to the questions by the attorneys were completely just unsupported, because there's no report there to support him. And that led to them being accused of violating this guy's Fourth Amendment rights. The 10th Circuit said, you did it. In most county sheriff's offices, that's fired. You're going to get fired for that. Not here. And that's a problem. One of the gentlemen involved in that suit left the sheriff's office and tried to get hired at the Junction City Police, and they turned away because of that suit. Those 4 officers that were looking for good leadership from the lieutenant and the sergeant that night did not get it. And so they cannot be employed anywhere else in the country. And if that's going on inside that department, if that's what the leadership is providing the deputies in that department, we have a problem. And that person will lead overall and continue that atmosphere is writing to me.
Well, thank you for putting all that into writing.
Thanks.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else? This meeting is adjourned.